Hi, I'm Eitimad Hashim. In this video, we are going to learn about community ecology and species interactions, part 1. Community ecology focuses on interactions between species, such as predation, symbiosis, and competition. And why community ecology focuses on interactions? Because the interactions affect community structure and organization. Species interactions are the backbone of communities and ecological relationships by helping better describe how they are connected. The species interactions are either interspecific interactions, that the interactions between different species like buffalo and lion, and intra-specific interactions is the interactions between the same species or one species, like gazelle here. The interactions can be summarized as positive or negative or no effect, zero. Usually, ecologists study communities by asking what types of interactions exist among species and what types of species are present that exert strong controls on the community structure, and why do communities vary in species composition, beside what other aspects of community that cause its change. In this lecture, we will focus on types of interactions exist among species. There are several ecological relationships, 6 main ecological relationships, of which 2 are oppositional and 4 of them are symbiotic. The oppositional relationships such as competition and predation, and the symbiotic relationships such as mutualism, commensalism, amensalism, and parasitism. In this lecture, we will focus on the first oppositional relationship, competition. Regarding competition, competition occurs when members of 2 different species use the same limited resources and therefore compete for it. So resources, what mean? Resources such as food, water, space, shelter, mates, and light. And competition has 2 types, inter-specific competition and intra-specific competition. Inter-specific competition is a competition between different species, and intra-specific competition is a competition between the same species or different species. We'll see this later. The interspecific competition exists also in 2 forms, in competitive exclusion or coexistence. Competitive exclusion, when one species completely excludes another species from using the resources. Exclude completely another species from using the resources. And the coexistence, when the 2 compete species, they can live both side by side. The species will adjust to minimize competition by using only part of the available resources. So they make the competition less, so they can coexist. But for competitive exclusion, it is a must one of them completely exclude the other from using the resources. And in competition, there is a winner and a loser. And the losing species either die out or forced to migrate to another ecosystem. For competitive exclusion, it is controlled by the principle by Gauss' law, who states that 2 species competing for the same limiting resources can't coexist in the same place. For example, for interspecific competition, here this test in flask in the lab between 2 species of paramecium, when they are using the same food, the same resource that present in the flask, they can coexist together, so 2 of them will grow. 2 of them grow. But when one of them exclude the other, like here, this one die out and excluded from the competition. This is an example for exclusion competition, and this is an example for coexistence. When the 2 species compete, but if they can coexist, some of them may be used as part of the food, and or partitioning the resources between them. So two of them can live. So we call it coexistence. But if one of them die out or exclude, then only one survive. We call it exclusion competition. Example for interspecific competition. Interspecific competition is a competition for resources between members of the same species, like here elephants, or different species, as we will say. Whatever the type of the competition results when there is high population density. That means there is an increase in the competition. Example number 1, 2 elephants can fight each other for a female mate. So the dominant elephants, the strong one, will get to breed with that female. Example number 2, here you can see dolphins can go along together and play. But they compete when it is time to eat. When it is time to eat, all dolphins have to compete for a meal. Each one must have a meal. So they compete each other. We call it intra-species competition or interspecific competition. Example number 3, when lion and wolves compete for a meal. Here there is a meal, and then two of them compete to eat from that meal. Also, we call it interspecies competition, even they are different species. Species compete when they have overlapping in the ecological rule. And the ecological rule, we call it ecological niche. Ecological niche, when a species fulfills all its rule or uses all of the resources it can. That means the sum of all the biotic and abiotic resources in a specific place called ecological niche. So niche means utilization of species to specific environmental condition. Only when a species utilize the environmental condition, then we will call it fundamental niche. We will call it fundamental niche. But sometimes there are resources partitioning. More than one species can partitioning or differentiate the resources between them by enabling similar species to coexist in the community. So species 1 is limited, its rule uses only a subset of the resource. Leave the other subset for species 2 and the other subset for species 3. We call it resources partitioning. So the competition here will be less. When the competition be less, then or between more than one species, they partitioning the resources, we call it realized species because they will partitioning the fundamental niche between them. More than one species can use. So the portion of the fundamental niche that is actually filled due to competition or other species interaction. If only one species used, we call it fundamental niche, but if more than one species use or fulfill its entire role by using all the available resources, just one, we call it fundamental, but more than one species, we call it realized niche. So by competition, the competition can be minimized if the two species overlap niches. They can partitioning the resources by natural selection in order to utilize less similar resources, and then it will be realized niche. For example, for resource partitioning, when species divide or share the same resources, for example, here this tree, in different ways. Let us have an example, like here, one species may be active during the day and another species may be active during the night. This is, we call it resource partitioning because they are using the same resource, the tree. So the ecological niche will be here. Also, if one species, all of them eat insects, but one of the species eat large insects and the other species eat small or tiny insects. So we call it resource partitioning. So resource partitioning occurs when two species coexist in spite of the apparent competition for the same resources. will be upper in competition for the same resources, which is the tree, the insect in the tree. But one of them eat large insects and the other one eat small insects. By partitioning out resources, species can have long-term for coexistence. They can live side by side for a long time with one another in the same habitat. This allows both species to survive and evolve physical characteristics. When the species evolve specific physical characteristic, we call it character displacement. Character displacement. Let us have an example. If the birds that utilize the same tree in the previous example, the birds that eat large seeds or insects definitely will evolve larger bills, and the one that eats small seeds or insects will evolve or will have smaller bills. So there is variation in the beak size between population of the two species, and the example here for Darwin fishes. Birds. Let us go through that. So character displacement when the two species live in sympatric geographical area. Sympatric means geographically the living or the ecological niche overlapping. They are utilizing the same resources. So, but when they are in allopatric means the two species live or utilize different ecological niche. So they develop specific factor to help them in order to utilize the ecological niche called character displacement. The big depths change quiet here in the first verse, but in the second one, as you can see, the big being big and a little bit change by depths also. So they become sympatric species. When they living together in order each one to be utilized a specific type of food different from other in order to make the competition less. So character displacement promote coexistence. In order to stay in the one place, selection of this character will reduce the competition between the two similar species, inhibiting the same environment. That means they are living in sympatric, in geographically overlapping environmental condition and leads to divergence of feature. They can live together, coexist, but they must diverge for the feature, and this is called character displacement, or it's called niche shift. Thank you so much. This is the end of our lecture, and here is the references that you can utilize in order to go further in the topic. But please like, share, and comment the video, and don't forget to press the notification button. Thank you so much.